Welcome back to the podcast, everyone. My name is Joe, and I'm with my good friend Dan, and together we're the Woodhounds.
Hey, everyone. How's it going? Glad to be back here again, Joe, with you for another episode of the Woodhounds podcast.
Yeah, we put a new episode out every Wednesday.
Live from the Woodhound studio in Northeast Ohio.
Yeah. I think this is an ideal location for Woodhound Studio, and I think it should never be moved.
I don't know. I think there's a more central location, a little west, but a little north and west.
Yeah. If you are new to the podcast, we want to welcome you and thank you for joining. And if you are a routine listener, thanks for coming back. It tells us that we are entertaining you and you haven't found us so completely boring yet.
Yeah, that's the main thing, because that's always, I always sometimes find myself in the woodyard talking to myself, I find myself boring sometimes.
Well, that's what I always say. I am self-employed, and when I talk to myself, I call it a staff meeting.
I need to start doing that. That's a good. I like that.
Yeah. And if you are not aware, both Dan and I got our start as YouTube channels. Dan's channel is called Back 40 Firewood, and my YouTube channel is called Ohio Woodburner. And we have had about a 2.5 year experience that we both have been enjoying, and we thought we would just take our talents to the podcast universe.
Yes, yeah, the YouTube channels. Yes, they are both still going strong. Loving every minute of it, just like this podcast. But I gotta tell you, Joe, there's something that's kind of been bugging me.
Something's bugging you. What could that possibly be?
Yeah, well, and it's kind of funny because we also have an email from it, so you know about it.
Well, hold on, Dan. You know what that means? It is time for listener mail.
Yes, indeed, it is listener mail, and it's like I said, it's funny because this is something that was kind of on my mind, and we have an email from Jeff. And Jeff is wondering, what do we do when we split wood and see ants or other bugs in the wood? What do you do if you're loading wood for sale and you find insects in your wood pile? Are there certain species of wood that attract insects more than others? So, I know for you've covered this on your YouTube channel because when you're delivering to restaurants and even your customers, you can't have any bugs.
Yeah. Excuse me, Dan. I've been scratching myself ever since you started reading that email from Jeff. I can't. I'm at war with bugs. And last summer, oh my gosh, every time I would turn around, there was just more and more ants everywhere. Every log I uncovered was ants. And it seems like this time of year, the ants, they had been dormant, living up inside of some log. And especially, it seems to me with the maple trees, the bigger ones, because those bigger maples, they always seem to rot out from the base.
Yep.
And that's where the ants get in, and they live up in there because they're rotted and there's a lot of moisture in there. And that's what ants want, is moisture. And oh my God, I remember there was a log last year when I split it open. It literally looked like Raiders of the Lost Ark with Indiana Jones. It just poured with black ants, and everything comes to a screeching halt.
I've had similar experiences, and it's nice when it's in the winter and it's cold because then they're all just like frozen and they don't move at all. But when they're alive and crawling and you crack that log open on the wood splitter, oh my goodness, everywhere, instantly, everywhere.
You can tell when there is going to be a problem. Even if there is just a little, if the log is cut in half, and let me say it again. If the log is bucked into a round and, it looks just like healthy wood, but if there is just one little pencil hole in the face of that log, it is watch out, because something evil inside lurks. So when I see logs like that now, if they're bigger and I'm putting them on the splitter, I will split in, towards that hole instead of just splitting the log in half and doing it like that,
Yeah.
because chances are they are in there. Oh, and I'm not scared of ants, but they just annoy the heck out of me because where I work, I'm close to my house, and I don't want them because a lot of these ants got wings too, you
Yep.
know, the carpenter ants. And man, if you've ever had a house inspection, that's what they look for, and they can do some damage.
Now, do you find though, like I've noticed if I've split a log open and there's ants in it, once I split those pieces down and put them in a stack somewhere, I don't see ants in my stacked wood.
No, well, I think that's another benefit of stacking your wood, because ants need water. And
Yep.
if the wood isn't healthy and if it's stacked, they leave because they're going down towards the ground and they're looking for water. So that's one of the benefits. However, we're talking about species, and I already started talking about maple. I've noticed with oak, especially oak that's been stacked for a long time, that bark will kind of peel off as an entire sheet, of bark,
Yep.
and that holds moisture from the rain, and you will pull off like the bark of a stick of firewood of oak, and there will just be millions of red ants with their eggs in their mouths, and they're staring at you and they're mad. Yeah, so when I load oak, we don't just throw the oak into the truck, we drop it on the tailgate, and we are looking because man, they can get into that oak. They don't damage the wood, but they just live under the bark.
Yep.
Oh,
So when
ants.
you
I can't
so
stand ants.
when you find ants in wood that's going out for delivery, you toss it aside and burn it yourself, or what's your process there?
Yeah, well, I was just loading oak last week, and I ran into about 5 sticks, throughout the process of loading the truck that had ants. And I just went and I sat them in the woods and just crisscrossed them because they'll just go into the soil,
Yeah.
and that was away from the house where I didn't care. Come to think of it, they're still laying out there. I better go. I better Yeah, but that is, I have been delivering before where there's ants, not a lot, but you run across them, and the homeowner, they don't seem to freak as much as I do. But when you're delivering value added firewood, that's embarrassing.
Yeah.
It'd be like owning a restaurant and like a cockroach goes scurrying across the floor.
Yeah, you don't
You
want
know
that.
that no, that's what ants are to me. I ugh. How often do you run into them with your firewood?
Usually only when I'm splitting. If I'll split
Mhm.
open and there'll be like a kind of like you said, like kind of a hollow or a little hole in a round, and then inside
Yeah.
that round, it's almost like compost. It's just like this. It's not wood and it's not dirt. It's just like the ants have broken it down into like a compost. And when you break that
Yeah.
open and the ants spill everywhere, but then once I split it and stack it, I very seldom will run into any ants if I'm pulling wood off the pile.
What do you do when you find them?
Just, I mean, usually if I do find them, I'll just throw that wood like into my stash that I'm going to burn myself. But I'll just clank the sticks together, knock them off, and throw the wood in the bucket or whatever. If I'm hauling it up to the woodshed,
Yeah. When I was younger, I remember Dad had those sprayers for like spraying your vegetables. They have like that hand pump,
oh, yep,
and
yep,
they have like a shoulder strap and like a little wand.
yes,
And I remember he would buy diazinon and mix it up with water, and that was what he would, if he ever ran across ants, he would blast them with that. But I understand they don't make that stuff anymore because it was turning people into werewolves or something. I don't know. It was one of these things that was once a great idea, like asbestos. So, but I have been now known to keep like a can. It's a good bug killer and it's cheap. Is carburetor cleaner that you
oh,
can buy. Yeah, you can buy like at the auto parts store. And when I used to work at that auto parts store, there was this guy. He would come in about every week, and he would buy like 2 cases of carb cleaner, and he would leave. And he would come back in next week and he'd buy more. And one day I asked him, I said, "You must have one of the biggest carburetors in the world, for all the carb cleaner that you're buying." He says, "Oh no," he says, "I'm a painter." He says, "This is the best bee killer and it's cheaper than bee killer. And you just hit them with this and they die." So
Oh,
that's what, because we're always getting stung when we're out painting houses. And he says, carb cleaner. So that's one of the things I started doing. So I keep carb cleaner with me for the hornets, but also for the ants. But I will say this though, when when I run across the ants, it's splitting. And when we get them, everything shuts down, everything comes to a halt, and all attention goes onto that log, because that is how important it is to keep. I mean, there's probably more bugs than than there are stars in the sky out here in my yard, but I don't want to see them. They can go down in the ground and stay there,
yep.
but they're staying out of the firewood. And if we do get a log that's infested, it doesn't go into the inventory. I have an area where all of our ant infested wood goes to, and it's well far away from everything. And then, we have like a yearly bonfire, gets rid of all of it.
Yep. I remember splitting down on the farm. We'd split over next to the barn, and then if we'd run into ants, we'd let the chickens out, and they would come and just have a buffet. They would be running around, grabbing, eating ants like crazy.
They're like Oreo cookies to them.
Yep. The
Yeah.
ants, and then the big white grubs. I don't know if you ever run into those. I don't know what they
Yeah.
are, but they're huge. And
I had always thought I see those big grubs in oak
yes,
when I'll split open an oak log. And I was always told, and I don't know, because I just never, I should probably be more invested in this side of the business, with invasive species, because obviously you've seen what the emerald ash borer has done, to all of
right.
our ash
Yep.
trees. They're all dead. Is that Asian longhorn beetle? I have never seen one. I've seen pictures of them. And there is a beetle that is common to the area that I live in that looks almost like an Asian longhorn beetle, but there's subtle differences. But I've never seen them. But that's what I've always heard. It's like some kind of an oak beetle that bores. And I mean, they chew a notch into the
Yeah.
sapwood and they live in there. Because man, you'll split one open. They're in pretty deep sometimes.
Yep. Yeah. And they get to be
Hmm.
big. I mean, they're big,
Yeah.
scrubbed. Oh,
And I don't know what to do with them. I always feel sorry for them. Because I smash them. I'll smash them on the table of the splitter. But I was like, this poor thing was just in there, just hanging out and stuff. Next thing you know, he smashed,
yep.
smashed into a greasy spot on my splitter.
There's another beetle that will go into pine, and I've actually sat and you can hear this beetle chomping and eating.
Oh wow!
Yeah, you can like hear it, like the jaws or I don't know, whatever it's doing, and then you can actually. I actually watched little specks of sawdust fall out of this hole, like it was, but it was crazy because you could actually hear this beetle chewing the wood. It
Oh
was
wow!
nuts.
So there is something killing pine trees now, and here in Ohio too. If you drive down the highways, they'll line a lot of the highways with pine trees. I think it helps with snow drifting. But man, they're like all dead. There'll just be miles and miles and miles of dead pine trees.
Oh, well, yeah,
Yeah.
and
Out
that,
west, they have like that beetle kill pine, that I guess it makes beautiful lumber. It has like a blue tint to it.
huh, wow,
Yeah. The other one that you see driving up and down the road are these gypsy moths. Have you seen, like, when you're driving down the road in the summer and you look up in the canopy of the trees and there'll be like this cocoon of spider webby looking thing
yes,
out at the end of a branch, and that's the gypsy moth, and that does damage on a lot of trees too.
yeah, I've seen those, and I believe I've even seen where there's like certain traps they hang out to try to catch them and
Hmm.
help control them. But yeah, that's another
Hmm. But
another one.
this last load of oak that I told you that we were loading, come to think of it, there was these other beetles in there. I don't know what they are, and I've never seen them before. They're kind of like a bigger lightning bug looking thing, except they're brown with like a green head.
Wow.
Um, and there was a number of those that I was just smashing those too. But I don't know. I don't know if they like oak or if they're getting into my oak because the oak sits out there for so long.
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
did find one snake, which was exciting too.
Oh, yeah. I've never found any snakes in my spiders, but spiders, that's the other big one that
Yeah.
I have a lot
Snakes don't bother me. Spiders,
of.
if you want to see me act like a little girl, get me around a spider, like out in the middle of a wood pile. Oh my God. I saw a spider the other day. If I wasn't paying attention, he would have ripped my arm off and beat me with it. That's how big this thing was.
Yeah,
Oh, I
there's
don't like spiders.
the wood pile seems to attract the big, hairy, brownish gray spiders, and my
Oh
wife hates them.
gosh. I hate spiders. My wife does too. That's what she yells at me. She's like, "Why did I marry you?" Because I don't know what it is. Snakes don't bother me. Mice, they don't bother me. Spiders, oh God. Yeah, spiders bother me.
There's another beetle that I used to see when we would do firewood down on the farm, and I haven't experienced it up here yet, but it would always leave just like a really fine, dusty powder on the wood. And I can't remember the name of the beetle,
Yeah.
but
I have heard I see that all the time with my hickory. And I was told by an Amish man, and what I've learned in my life, because we have a big Amish population out here, anything about wood told to you from an Amish person is accurate. And he said that there is this, he called it a mite that gets into hickory. He says you never see it, but you'll pick up a stick of hickory and there'll be a big pile of sawdust. He
yes.
says they're harmless to your house, they're harmless to any other wood, but they just like to chew on hickory.
Wow.
Yeah,
That could be the same thing. And
could,
that
could be.
powder, that dust that they leave behind, I
Yeah,
gathered up a bunch and it's very flammable. If you throw it into a fire, it explodes. It's,
interesting.
yeah.
I've always been annoyed by it because all the rain that we get out here, when it gets rained on, it gets like pasty and it's just
Oh,
nasty,
yeah.
and
Yeah.
it makes the wood look ugly too. Yeah, that's why I've never been a fan of hickory. I love the smell of hickory, but that's one of the other reasons why, because it gets dirty when it's been stacked for a while, and it's all because of that mite that's like creating all that sawdust.
Hmm.
Here's another one: the wood tick,
Oh gosh.
or what people call the armadillo bug. When you touch them, they curl up into a little ball.
Oh,
I had Yeah,
yeah.
I had learned those are called wood ticks, and they like water too. And I get a lot of those. Now I consider them to be harmless, but what I had learned is if sometimes higher up in your stack of wood, if you pull out a couple sticks and there's like this sheen of black or like these little tiny microscopic black uh, chunks, balls, or just flakes laying, that's their poop from the wood ticks.
Wow.
So they're getting higher up into your wood. So yeah, I don't like them, but they don't bother me.
See, when I hear wood tick, I think of like a tick, that attaches to you and like just
Oh
ticks
yeah,
like bear tick, deer tick, wood tick.
right.
Oh, and that I do not like ticks.
No, I've had one on me so far. I need to keep track this year.
They are what I believe is a true form of alien species on Earth.
Oh
They're-
wow, yeah, they don't have 8 legs like spiders, right? They have 6.
yeah, and they
Yeah, but they bring disease.
survive through anything. Like the coldest winters. I think I read somewhere they can like go months without eating. They're just like
Ugh.
crazy. But I hate
I I dispose of my ticks with my ball peen hammer. Yeah, everyone always like they make this big process about like, oh, you got to put them in this and like you heat them up with a cigarette lighter. I just put them out on the garage floor and just pop with a problem solved.
Yep. That's
Yeah,
when I pull them off the dogs. I'll either burn them in a little piece of paper, or I do something like that. Take a knife or like an axe and just smash them.
yeah. This is a real good topic, and that's why I think also too. I think the best. that's why I like working in the wintertime with firewood, because you don't have to deal with bugs, you
Yeah.
know? And I will open up a log in the wintertime and it's just filled with dead, you'd think they're dead. And I just walk that log right over to my furnace and throw it right into the furnace right then and there. And it goes,
Instant burn.
yeah. One gentleman that makes firewood for me, he always has a fire at his house. He has a big pile and he has a 55-gallon drum. And he says that's where he opens up, an infested log. You just throw it right onto the fire.
Huh, yeah. I suppose the difference, or the one thing, like in my situation with the outdoor wood boiler, is I never bring, wood into the house. So I know that, if you were had a fireplace in your house, I suppose you would want to be very, cautious and alert to any ants or any insects that you
Right.
bring into the house in the winter, because they'd warm up and they'd be in your house.
Yeah, they would wake up. The guy lives up the road from me. He has a wood. His house is heated with wood, and his furnace is in the basement. And he has a chute, that all the
Yep.
logs go down, and then he stacks them up. But there you go. That's where they,
Yeah.
you know, I would be if I were to ever buy a house that had that kind of a setup. I'd get that inspected by the Orkin man. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't know. When I think of wood, though, when you talk about insects, my brain goes right to ants, though. That's where, I don't know, that is what affects me the most. It seems that's what does the most damage in wood, because I don't sell wood that even had past infestation. It doesn't go into our firewood. It goes into my pile. I don't sell it. And that's what I worry about most is, these carpenter ants, the black ants.
Yep.
Oh my God. Yeah, I can't stand those things.
Yeah. I think the ants are by far the most common, and I think the ones that what you experience and run across the most. Because, like, I've never seen an emerald ash borer beetle. I don't,
You
I've never
haven't?
seen one. No, I've
Uh,
seen.
I We've had them in our house. I will also say this about them: they are a very beautiful bug.
Oh,
They, if they're called emerald, they are shaped about the size of a lightning bug, and
hmm.
they are as rich of a metallic emerald green that you could possibly imagine.
Well, maybe I
And
have
they
seen
are,
one then.
and they are killers, man. And
But yeah,
they have no predators here in this part of the world.
I guess when I should say that I've never split a piece of ash open and found an emerald ash borer beetle.
Yeah, same here. And I had heard that they once the tree dies, they leave.
Yeah.
You know, they lay their eggs and they hatch and mature and leave, and then the tree dies,
Yep.
and then they're going off to the next one to do it all over again.
Over and over and over again.
Yeah, they bore. That's what they do. They bore a hole into the bark, and they live under the bark on the sapwood. And that's why when you see these ash trees, when you have them come in for firewood, when the bark falls off, they got that, it looks like a highway system,
Yep.
it's
The
just
trails.
trails going everywhere. And that was from them, eating the sapwood and laying their eggs.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's why I think ants, are the most common that I have in the wood yard that I see, but I don't really do anything different. I just, like I said, I'll knock the pieces together when I'm splitting them, and then once I take the wood to the stack, I've never had ants when I've pulled wood off of a stack.
Yeah. Yeah. Same here. I never see ants in stacked firewood, and I don't leave it in a pile, but I would think that if you did have a gigantic pile, you would probably find them in there somewhere.
Probably.
And then that gets to, if you are selling firewood, okay, if you are a homeowner, you certainly don't want ants. You know, if you're selling firewood, it depends on the type of business you are. And if you're just dumping, if you have a front end loader and you're scooping up big piles of firewood, and you got about 6 inches of yard in that bucket that you scoop too low, and you dump it on someone's driveway and you leave, you're not worried about ants. That's their problem. What I try to do with Ohio Wood Burner and selling value added firewood you should expect to not find any ants in your order,
Yep.
and there aren't. There you won't find any bugs in our order. And if you do find them, they were hiding pretty good.
It is funny when I think, like I'll break open a piece of wood on the splitter and there'll be ants all over, and I'll bang the piece on the table and knock them all out. And
Uh-huh.
then, they're everywhere. I mean, they're on your clothes, on your arms, but then it's kind of funny
Ugh.
because 5-10 minutes later, it's almost like they're all gone. Like, I don't know where
Yeah,
they
they're all
go,
gone.
but you can't find them anymore.
I I have I have a process now. When we split with that, now our split is horizontal, so it has this big work table. And those ants, they're scared to death. They just pour out of there, and that whole table's just vibrating. I have a wheelbarrow that I always set off to the side, and it's my ant wagon. So if I open up, and it's big enough and steep enough that if they get into it, they can't get back out. So I will throw the log into that ant wagon. I will put the wheelbarrow up against the table, and I'll brush all of the ants that I can find into it. I'll carburetors blast the other ones that that are still there, and then shut off the splitter. We take the wheelbarrow out, well far out to the other side of the wood yard, and dump it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm serious. Everything comes to a stop when we get into ants. I can't stand them, and we can't have them.
Yeah, I don't come to a stop. I just, like I said, bang the pieces together, knock as many off as I can, keep splitting, and that's the last I usually see of them until the next piece. That I
Yeah,
always wonder, like, I wonder if they say that ants are really sophisticated with their communications, and I wonder if, like, at the end of the day, they're sitting around like, well, where's Billy? Well, he was in that piece of wood and he didn't make it back.
yeah. You say no. He's in that funny looking guy that was splitting wood. He went into his house and he's eating his rafters right now.
Yep. Yeah. That's something that I guess I just thought about right now, is the fact that people who take the wood into their house, that would be a big, that'd be more a problem, like you said, than selling it. Because
Yeah.
if you get those bugs in your house, that's their new
That's why I
home.
think people that have a fireplace, maybe the log doesn't stay in the house long enough for the ants to come back to life and start walking around. Or maybe it does. I don't know. But definitely in the basement,
Yeah.
I would say yes. You're vulnerable down there.
Yeah, because usually you load up as much wood in your basement as you can to, so you don't have to keep
Sure.
restocking it all winter.
And your house is, oh, by the way, warm. you know, I have split open logs in the middle of winter, and there are literally thousands of those black ants just all curled up in a little ball and just sleeping away. And
Yeah.
just think about, if that log got put into a house like that. Oh my God, that's gross to even think of it.
But it's crazy how they survive that during the winter, because it's not that insulated inside a round of
Yeah.
firewood. I mean,
Yeah,
I
that's
don't know.
true.
I don't get it.
I
Yeah.
guess maybe they are a fascinating insect, but they can be fascinating somewhere else.
Yes, somewhere other than in
Yeah,
firewood
somewhere.
logs.
Yeah, somewhere other than around me.
Yeah. I've got a bunch of stumps in the front of the house that I've been meaning to get rid of, and it wouldn't be, they couldn't go over there and just start eating all that wood up. That would be a perfect spot for them. But no, 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 no. There's no insects, no bugs, no ants, nothing in the stuff you want to get.
No, no, there never is. Your house tastes too good for them to go over to that stump. So
Oh,
I thought this was a fun discussion.
yes. Thank
I
you,
don't
Jeff.
like them, but I don't like bugs, but I can talk about them.
Yeah, and it's, his question about what we do with it. I mean, I don't really worry too much. I deal with it right there as I'm splitting, and then I forget about it. But, like, for you, loading up wood to take out to a customer, you probably have to pay a little
Yeah.
more attention than I do.
And we do. It's a part of the process. And I think that's one of the benefits of hand loading our trucks is we can see an infestation before it gets out on the road.
Yep.
Hmm. Yeah, well, thanks Jeff for that email. That was really nice.
Yes.
And if anyone else out there listening to our podcast has a question, send us an email. Dan, what's our address?
thewoodhounds@gmail.com.
Ooh, sounds easy enough. Yeah, send us an email, and you never know, we might be able to read it on the air, or we can even dedicate an episode to it.
You never know what will happen here on the
That's right.
Woodhounds podcast.
Yeah.
We don't even know half the time. So, we're all in this together.
That's right. All right. Well, Dan, do you think maybe we should start playing the music?
Let's hit it. Let's strike up the band.
All righty. Well, I want to thank everyone for tuning in to the Woodhounds podcast, and thank you for making us part of your day.
Yes. Thank you very much. Greatly appreciate you tuning in. I love seeing the numbers of the downloads from all across all the various platforms. So keep it up, Woodhounds.
And we want to wish everyone
a great day.